All right, so one of the things that I've found keeps clients from getting started with virtual assistants or delays them from getting started with virtual assistants is there's a mental block for people that haven't done it yet with how the transition is going to be to go from having in-house workers to virtual assistants. And a lot of people, once they pass through this threshold and go through their first training experience, the uneasiness about that situation really dissipates because they find out that it's a lot easier than they thought possible, a lot easier than they thought it was going to be. Training in-house employees can be a nightmare. There's a lot of different things that are involved in it. There's the onboarding of the tasks of the protocols, which is something that's going to be similar with the virtual assistants and with the in-house employee. However, the difference is when you bring on an in-house employee, you also have to assimilate them into your corporate culture. Whereas a virtual assistant is working in another office, and to an extent that corporate culture is already managed and set up for you so that they have a productive environment and that they're having the correct attitudes, work ethics, and different things that you need in order for your tasks to be done right and for your company to be as productive as possible. This integration can really be where a lot of the additional stress comes through with hiring an in-house employee, because as you're bringing them on, teaching them the tasks, and trying to really lead by example when it comes to introducing them to the corporate culture and helping them assimilate to your corporate culture, a lot of times what that means essentially is that you have to be on 110% in order to set the correct example for them to follow, which if you're a business owner or high-level manager or anything like that, chances are that you're putting in a lot more hours than most of your employees. So if you're needing to give 110% in addition to everything else that you're doing, you really have to show up extra hard for these times when the other employee is there, when you're interfacing with them, especially if you're working in the same office where they literally can see you throughout the day. It can add a lot to what you have going on. Whereas a virtual assistant is a little bit different. Like I touched on earlier, there's basically one side that you have to realize or that you have to work on when it comes to training, which is the tasks. The tasks are really what you need to focus on. In terms of the corporate culture stuff, that's generally taken care of already. They're already working somewhere else. They already have their own in-house management team there that's making sure that everyone doesn't go idle, that everyone stays productive, has the right attitude when they come to work, all that sort of stuff. So it can make things significantly easier than they are otherwise. The other thing that's also extremely nice, which is something that many people, until they've really experienced it, they don't understand all the other byproducts that there are. In regards to having remote-based employees, one thing that you'll find out real fast is employees that come to your office, sicknesses and illnesses and germs and all that sort of stuff can easily be spread when people are just working in that sort of close proximity. When you don't have that many people in the office, when people are spread out in their own locations, then it compartmentalizes that, and you never have to worry about your virtual assistant coming to your office and getting everyone sick. It's just something that doesn't happen. That's something that's very nice. Not having to manage and be responsible for their physical place of work is very nice. You don't have to worry about their air conditioning. You don't have to worry about their computer. You don't have to worry about having to call a maintenance guy or doing an early morning run to the store to get a new computer if they show up for work and turn on what they got and it's just blue screen of death, nothing's happening. With an outsourced situation, all that stuff is already taken care of. So it really makes things a lot easier in the long run. But rolling back to the initial training, the apprehension that comes with that, let me just give you some quick pointers on what you can do to make things as easy as possible. An analogy that I've used for this situation is I ask people, I say, do you have, in regards to your training, do you have a campfire training program, or do you have a protocoled and documented training program? And let me explain what that means. There's many companies that employ what I call a campfire-based training program. And basically what that is imagine if you were telling stories around a campfire. And if you weren't there, if you missed that campfire, if you weren't present at that campfire, none of that information is going to be able to come through to you. You missed it. You weren't there. If you are there, it can be a very good way to learn because you can directly interface with senior members of the company that really know what they're doing and make it to where you can transfer that knowledge fairly efficiently on a level that isn't really scalable. So for a lot of times, for smaller sort of situations, especially if it's a personal, you're in a very close proximity to the people that you're working with, their in-house employees, it's kind of the default way to go. It's easier than any sort of protocol thing or documenting anything. However, when you jump into a remote-based work environment, it gets a little bit harder to do, especially if you're scaling things and you're working with a team that's growing. Every time you grow a new member of the team, if you're running campfire style, you're going to have a new meeting, start the new person from the very beginning, and go from there. And it can be really frustrating to do. So what we recommend when you're doing kind of the more remote workforce management or doing virtual assistance is to go for a more documented approach, which through technology, it actually enables things to be very, very easy. And it doesn't require that much additional work at all from the client. With virtual agents who work in our company, they're all basically programmed during the initial training when they're onboarded onto the company, how to document training methods. And basically what they do, different people can do it differently, but what we do in our company is it all starts with a campfire. It still does. That's what the clients are used to. That's how a lot of companies roll. So what we do is we record the campfire, and then when the training is happening, when the first person gets explained the task for the first time, we record it. And then from that recording, we'll break down some documentation and we'll put it into the task system with links that reference the original recording. And then a lot of times what we'll do too is we'll make kind of an abbreviated version, a faster version of the tasks, where once the agent has gotten up to speed, they'll record themselves doing it at kind of more of a real-time pace. Because a lot of times when the client explains initially, it's like a step-by-step sort of thing that can take quite a while before it all comes out. So by taking that initial training with the client, documenting it, basically writing it down, putting it in stone. The client never has to say that again. So what this does is it enables many things to happen. If we have that particular member, say it's a one-person team, and that person, something happens to them, they need to get cycled out, new person needs to come on. Instead of starting from scratch, you got all the materials there to show the brand new person. Sometimes there will still be some questions, and there will be a little bit of interfacing with the client if you let it get all the way down to zero and then rebuild from just the documentation. However, if you always have the person that wrote the documentation or somebody that has already been trained how to do the tasks in addition to the documentation, you can bring on another assistant. They can go through the documentation. Any questions that need to be filled in about any of the knowledge that's covered can be answered by an existing team member. Client doesn't even have to be bothered. So it's definitely something to think about. I used to work in a very seasonal call center, and training was the bane of my existence, which is kind of how a lot of these methods initially got developed. I had 2 busy seasons during the year and 2 slow seasons during the year. So there would generally be 2 hirings, 2 firings, and 2 massive trainings, and it would wear me out. It really would. Once I got it to where things were a little bit more scalable and was able to automate a lot of those tasks, it just made things a lot easier and enabled the focus and the energy to shift from just maintaining the day-to-day to really thriving, thinking about the future in a much different way and focusing on growth. So that's just what I wanted to cover today. Hope this has been valuable for you, and any questions or anything, please ask in the comments below. If you enjoyed this information, please subscribe, and you'll be the first to know about any new updates that we have coming up. We are working currently on our How to Use a Virtual Assistant Masterclass. That's going to be coming out here at some point in the future, so keep your eye out for that. There's going to be lots of valuable information about how you can use virtual assistants to scale your company, make your life easier, and really excel without having to wear yourself out so much. So, hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching. Aloha.